Hey, it's the Empire, Jew Boxing Empire, Boxer Boxing. Now, my boy Josh Taylor, man, one of the few undisputed champions in boxing today. Right, first one was Terrence Crawford, then it was Josh Taylor, now it's Canelo Alvarez, and well, I guess Alexander Usyk as well. It's wild because understand there's been six undisputed champions, right? Six, right, and that was Bernard Hopkins, my boy Jermaine Taylor, Terrence Crawford, Alexander Usyk, Josh Taylor, and now Canelo Alvarez. There's been three of them in this generation, which is wild stuff, man. It tells you that everything you need to know about boxing. It tells you that it's hot right now. It's big. Everyone's talking about it. And, you know, Josh Taylor, let's say that, well, before I get into Josh Taylor, Alexander Usyk, when he became undisputed in his division, in the cruiserweight division, he went up in weight and fought bigger, badder dogs, right? Canelo Alvarez became undisputed at 168. Now he's reaching for bigger, badder dogs, right? There's still unfinished business to do at 160, right? The Jamal Charlos, the Demetrius Andrades, and I guess there's still one more big dog at 168 David Benavidez. Now that being said, Josh Taylor became undisputed at 140, and it seemed as though his clout, right, all of his accomplishments they haven't been the same as Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. It hasn't meant the same thing, you know. Understand that Josh Taylor has only fought at 140 his whole career, and we want to see him fight the best of the best now. Now the guy is fighting an undefeated fighter in Jack Catterall in Britain. So this will be a homecoming fight, because understand this would be a fight where he's fighting undisputed in his home country. Right now, this is the first undisputed champion that's went back to the UK to fight. Right, he's the first UK undisputed champion with all 4 titles. So that being said, man, you know, Josh Taylor, he's doing big things, but we want to see what's really next. And he can't make a small move. He has to fight big dogs. He's going to have to fight. If it's not a big dog, it's going to have to be a big name, right? And who does we want to see him fight? Well, he's going to have to either go up to 147 and fight Terrence Bud Crawford and Errol Spence Jr., the true big dogs, you know, the guys who are, you know, no one seems to want to fight them. They don't even want to fight each other. It's so wild. Or he's going to have to want to fight Teofimo Lopez or Devin the Dream Haney. Me personally, man, I think the fight that's most likely to be made is not the Teofimo Lopez fight, because he's with Bobby Arum. They do co-promotions with Tyson Fury and Queensberry Promotions with Tyson Fury, but that's only one fighter. I think that Sky Sports is most likely to do a big fight with my boy Josh Taylor in the Devin Haney fight, right? My boy Eddie Hearn promotes Devin Haney, right? He fights for them all the time. So that being said, man, if Devin Haney can't get the job done with Teofimo Lopez, most likely Devin the Dream Haney will be fighting Josh Taylor if he wants that fight. And that's setting the bar pretty low for Josh Taylor, man, to reach down in weight class to fight a smaller fighter. Me personally, man, I want to see him go up and fight the big dogs, man. I want to see him fight the Errol Spence Jr.'s and the Terrence Bud Crawfords. There's a lot of big fights at 147 that Josh Taylor can be made. It's just more money fights down there, right? You got Sean Porter, you got Keith Thurmans, you got Danny Garcias, you got Jaron Boots Ennis, you got Virgil Ortiz, and the list goes on and on and on, right? It's just more bigger fights, and they're meaningful fights. They're career-defining fights. If he can get past all those guys, that would make him one of the best fighters in the UK history, if he can get past all those guys I just named. So that being said, man, Josh Taylor, he had a great run in his career, man. Big win for him. You know, big wins in becoming undisputed. And, you know, that being said, man, I'm sort of curious on where his career goes from here. Me personally, man, he needs to fight. He needs to pick a weight class, right? He needs to go up or down or something. He needs to do something quick, because I never seen someone become undisputed and it not be talked about like that. People are real quiet about Josh Taylor, and it's sort of bizarre stuff, man. After, you know, Canelo became undisputed this weekend or last weekend, people were talking about how this guy's the greatest. They're talking about how he's the greatest fighter of all time. I got some people saying stuff like that, or he's the greatest Mexican fighter of all time. But people are trying to say he's the greatest fighter of all time because he became undisputed. You know, Terrence Bud Crawford, pound for pound #1 fighter. He's a 3-division world champion. Understand that the difference between Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez is Canelo Alvarez is a 4-division world champion. Terence Crawford is a 3-division world champion. All he has to do is go up one more division, and he'll be just like Canelo Alvarez. But understand, Terence Crawford's not going nowhere until he becomes undisputed, and it seems like a fait accompli that's going to happen. Me personally, I think for Josh Taylor's career, that 147 division is better for him because there's bigger fights, and draining yourself when you get older is not a good idea. Now the guy, Josh Taylor, I guess he's not that old. He's 30 years old, so maybe he can drop 5 pounds. I'm not too sure about it. I'm not too sure. But that being said, we're going to see how this whole thing plays out, man, with Josh Taylor. But I thought I'd talk about the guy. Everyone's been real quiet about the guy. But yeah, man, I want to see him fight big dogs. Understand when when you got fighters coming up from smaller weight classes and you got guys coming up from 2 divisions up, right? And Gervonta Tank Davis coming from 130 to 140 in Josh Taylor's division, and Gervonta Tank Davis is stopping the guys in your division, and he just became undisputed. It makes your division look really weak. It just does. You had many fighters come from smaller divisions, coming up and just taking out guys at 147, right? Rolly Romero did it to Anthony Yiggett. He went up weight class and knocked out one of their top, 20, 30 guys. I'm not too sure what Anthony Yiggett's rank was, but it wasn't a slouch. So that being said, when you got smaller fighters coming up and taking out guys in your division, it looks bad, man. It looks real bad. So he's going to have to make a statement quickly. Now, we're going to see how this whole thing plays out, man. I did hear Josh Taylor mention Gervonta Tank Davis one time, but then he pulled it back and he said that, I was playing around and it wasn't, I was upset. That's what he was saying. He was talking big and bad. When Gervonta came up in weight, he was pretty upset about that because people were saying that Gervonta Tank Davis was a WBA super champion when, Josh Taylor was the champion. But the WBA title, in my opinion, the rankings are really good. And I broke it down once and I broke it down again, I guess. The WBA regular title has mandatories. The WBA super title does not have mandatories. The WBA regular title, you have to pay sanctioning fees just like the super title, and they cost the same amount of money. So that being said, in my opinion, just because the WBA has mandatories, it makes it more legit than the super title, in my opinion. The closest thing you can become to the WBA super champion is becoming the regular champion, right? Now that Gervonta Tank Davis is the WBA regular champion at 135, there's probably a good chance that Gervonta Tank Davis will be mandatory to fight Josh Taylor if he just keeps that belt, maybe defends it, every now and then. Because understand, he got the belt against Mario Barrios, and these sanctioning bodies, how it works is you have to defend a title within a year and a half. So that being said, Gervonta Tank Davis is set to fight Josh Taylor if he just holds that belt, maybe defends it one time. Josh Taylor, he's either gonna have to vacate those titles or he's gonna have to fight a big name. Either way, he's gonna have to fight someone big very soon, whether he wants to or not. So big news, man. I'm wild on Josh Taylor, man. I think he's a great fighter. I think he accomplished some great things. But he can't. There's no playing it safe anymore, my guy. You're undisputed now. No more playing it safe. You gotta dive in deep with the big fish now. Let me know how you guys feel about it, though. Like, comment, subscribe. This is the Empire, Geoboxing Empire. Peace.